When I was getting ready to go to my daughter's for dinner, my lawyer texted me, "Call me immediately." I dialed his number. What he told me about my daughter. I was standing in my bedroom, buttoning up a clean shirt, thinking about nothing more serious than whether I should bring a bottle of wine or just dessert. It was supposed to be a simple evening. Sunday dinner at my daughter's house. Something we'd started doing a few months ago, ever since she insisted she wanted us to feel like a family again. I even remember smiling at that thought. Then my phone vibrated on the dresser. I glanced at the screen, expecting a message from my daughter asking me to pick something up on the way. Instead, I saw my lawyer's name. That alone was strange. We hadn't spoken in weeks. My legal affairs were quiet. No court dates. No disputes. No reason for urgency. The message was short. Too short. Call me immediately. No explanation. No puntuación. Just that. For a moment, I honestly thought it was a mistake. Maybe meant for another client. But then my phone vibrated again. Same number. No new message. Just pressure. I picked up the phone and dialed. He answered on the first ring. "Where are you right now?" he asked. "No greeting. No pleasantries. At home. I'm about to leave," I said, confused. "Is something wrong?" There was a pause on the line. I could hear him breathing, like he was choosing his words carefully. "Yes," he finally said. "Something is very wrong, and you need to sit down." I sat on the edge of my bed. "What's going on?" I asked. "Is this about me?" "No," he said quietly. "It's about your daughter." That sentence alone made my stomach drop. "My daughter?" I repeated. "What do you mean? Is she okay?" "She's fine," he said quickly. "Physically, at least. But I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you." My lawyer is not an emotional man. In all the years I've known him, I've never heard fear in his voice. Until that moment. I was contacted this afternoon by an attorney representing a party connected to a trust you set up years ago, he said. The one you established after your wife passed away. My heart started pounding. That trust was meant for one purpose only, my daughter's future. College, housing, stability, everything her mother wanted for her. "I don't understand," I said. "That trust has been active for years. What does that have to do with tonight?" He exhaled slowly. "Because someone has been attempting to access it in ways that raise serious legal concerns." I stood up. "Access it how?" He hesitated again. "Your daughter has been filing documents," he said. "Not directly. Through intermediaries. Shell requests. Power of attorney inquiries." My mouth went dry. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "She doesn't need to. She already has access." "Yes," he replied. "Limited access. Which is why this raised red flags." I started pacing the room. "What are you saying?" I asked. "That she wants more money?" "It's not about wanting more," he said carefully. "It's about how she's trying to get it." I stopped walking. "Explain." "There have been attempts to liquidate assets that require your explicit consent," he said. "Properties, long-term investments, things meant to remain untouched for decades." "That's impossible," I said. "She knows the rules." "She knows the rules," he agreed, "which is why she's trying to go around them." I felt a strange mix of disbelief and irritation. "Maybe there's a misunderstanding," I said. "Did you talk to her?" "Yes," he said. Another pause. "She denied everything." Something about the way he said that bothered me. "Denied?" I repeated. "So why are you calling me like this?" "Because," he said slowly, "the paperwork doesn't lie. And because the methods being used suggest planning, not confusion." I leaned against the wall. "What kind of planning?" He lowered his voice, even though we were on the phone. "The kind that involves preparing for your absence." The words didn't register at first. "My absence?" I asked. "As in," he clarified, "legal incapacity. Or death." The room felt suddenly smaller. "That's insane," I said. "Why would—" "Has your daughter asked you recently about your will?" He interrupted. I froze. Images flashed through my mind. Casual conversations. Comments I'd brushed off. "Dad, do you still have that old paperwork? Have you ever thought about simplifying things? You should really update your documents." At the time, I thought she was just being responsible. "Yes," I admitted. "She's mentioned it." "Has she asked about power of attorney?" he asked. "Yes." "Medical decisions?" "Yes." Another silence. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I'm not accusing your daughter of a crime. Not yet. but there is enough here to be deeply concerned. I swallowed. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you do not go to dinner tonight, he said, and that you do not confront her until we speak in person. My chest tightened. She's expecting me, I said. I'm supposed to be there in an hour. I know, he said, which is why I need you to understand this next part. My heart was racing now. The attorney who contacted me, he continued, did so because their client believes your daughter has been misrepresenting your mental state. What? I said sharply, as in claiming you were confused, forgetful, easily influenced. That's a lie. I snapped. I know, he said, but if documented properly, those claims can become very dangerous. I felt cold all over. Why would she do that? I whispered. That, he said quietly, is what we need to figure out before she makes her next move. I looked at my phone screen, still glowing in my hand. Outside my window, the sky was starting to darken. I thought about my daughter setting the table, cooking dinner, smiling when I walked through the door, or maybe watching me, waiting. I need you to tell me something honestly, my lawyer said. Has your daughter changed recently? I opened my mouth to answer, and that's when I realized she had. After I hung up the phone, I just stood there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. I kept replaying my lawyer's words in my head. Preparing for your absence. It sounded dramatic, unreal, like something from a bad movie. And yet, the unease wouldn't go away. My phone buzzed again. A message from my daughter. Everything okay? You're not running late, are you? I stared at the text longer than I should have. Before that call, I would have replied immediately. A joke. A reassurance. Now my fingers felt heavy. I typed. Something came up. Might need to reschedule. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then disappeared. Then another message. Is everything all right, Dad? There was again. That word. Dad. Normally it warmed me. This time, it felt calculated. I put my phone down without replying. I spent the next hour pacing the house, noticing things I'd never really paid attention to before. The silence felt louder than usual. My thoughts kept circling back, digging up moments from the past few months that suddenly didn't feel so innocent. Like the time my daughter insisted on driving me to a doctor's appointment I never asked for. Or when she'd gently correct me in front of others. No, Dad, you already told that story. Are you sure you remember it that way? At the time, I laughed it off. Now it made my skin crawl. I eventually sat down at my desk and pulled out an old folder. The one I hadn't touched in years. Legal documents. Trust information. Copies of my will. That's when I noticed something that made my heart skip. Some papers were newer. Not replaced. Not fully updated. But reorganized. As if someone had gone through them. Carefully. Deliberately. I was certain I hadn't. My housekeeper came only once a week and never touched my office. And there was only one other person who had a key. My daughter. I told myself I was overreacting. That stress was twisting my perception. But then I remembered something else. About 3 weeks earlier, she had asked me for a copy of my ID. She said it was for a home insurance issue. Something about needing it for paperwork since I was co-signing advice for her mortgage. I had hesitated. She smiled and said, Dad, you trust me, right? Of course I did. I sent it to her that same night. I sat back in my chair, my chest tight. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Please call me. I didn't. Instead, I called my lawyer back. I need more details, I said as soon as he answered. Everything you have. He didn't argue. There's something else, he said, and I wasn't sure whether to tell you over the phone. Tell me, I said. He sighed. The reason the other attorney reached out, he continued, is because their client is involved in a civil dispute connected to a care facility. A care facility? I repeated. Yes, he said. One your daughter has been in contact with. My stomach dropped. What kind of contact? Inquiries, he said, about availability. Costs. Admission processes. For who? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. For you. The room felt like it tilted. I don't need a care facility, I said sharply. I live alone. Imanaj fine. I know, he said, but the inquiries describe you differently. I clenched my jaw. Ow! As forgetful, he said. Disoriented. Prone to confusion. At risk. I felt a surge of anger, so sudden it made my hands shake. That's a lie, I said. Yes, he replied, which is why this is alarming. I ran a hand through my hair. Why would she do this? I asked. What does she gain? He didn't answer right away. Control, he finally said. Legal authority. Accelerated access to assets. I laughed bitterly. You're talking about my daughter like she's a stranger. I'm talking about the situation, he corrected gently. Not who you want her to be. That hurt more than I expected. Is there proof? I asked. Anything concrete? There are emails, he said. Forms. Drafts. Nothing finalized yet, but enough to show intent. Intent. That word echoed in my head long after we hung up. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining scenarios. Conversations. Confrontations. Her crying. Her denying everything. Or worse, her not denying it at all. In the early morning hours, I checked my phone again. A missed call. 2 unread messages. The last one read, Dad, please. You're scaring me. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Was she scared? Or was she realizing that I knew something? Because for the first time since my wife passed away, a terrifying thought crossed my mind. What if the person I trusted most had already been planning a future without me in it? I finally called her back the next morning. Not because I felt ready, but because avoiding her any longer felt like giving up control. She answered immediately. Dad. Her voice sounded strained. Where did you go last night? I waited for you. I had something important come up, I said carefully. We need to talk. There was a brief pause. About what? She asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. About a few things, I replied. Can we meet? In person. Another pause. Of course, she said. You can come over. Or I can come to you. That offer would have felt kind once. Now it felt strategic. Let's meet somewhere neutral, I said. A café. She hesitated just for a second too long. Okay, she said. Text me the place. When I arrived, she was already there. She stood up when she saw me, smiling, arms open for a hug. I almost stepped into it. Almost. Instead, I gave her a brief nod and sat down across from her. Her smile faltered just slightly. You look tired, she said. Are you feeling all right? I met her eyes. I'm fine, I said. Are you? She blinked, then smiled again. Of course. Why wouldn't I be? I decided not to ease into it. I got a call from my lawyer, I said. Her expression froze for half a second. Then she laughed lightly. Oh, she said. Did he finally convince you to update your will? That was too smooth. Too rehearsed. He told me you've been contacting people on my behalf, I said. About my finances. And my health. Her laugh stopped. I was just trying to help, she said quickly. You know how complicated that stuff can be. You told people I was confused, I said. That I might need supervision. Her jaw tightened. I never said that, she replied. I leaned forward. There are emails, I said. Forms. Descriptions. She looked away, then back at me. You're twisting this, she said. You've been forgetful lately, Dad. Everyone sees it. My chest tightened. Who is everyone? I asked. She hesitated. Then she said something I didn't expect. My husband agrees with me. That was the first time she'd mentioned him. I hadn't seen much of her husband lately. Kvietman. Always polite. Always in the background. He thinks you're vulnerable, she continued. That you shouldn't be alone. And this came up when I asked. After you forgot my birthday dinner, she said sharply. I called you the next day, I replied. I apologized. That's not the point, she snapped, then caught herself. The point is, I worry about you. I studied her face. Something was off. Not anger. Not fear. Impatience. Did you request my ID? I asked suddenly. Her eyes widened before she could stop herself. You gave it to me, she said defensively. For insurance, I said. Not for power of attorney drafts. She stood up. You're being paranoid, she said. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I stayed seated. No, I said quietly. This is what you were counting on. Her face hardened. You don't understand how hard this has been for me, she said. Watching you decline. I'm not declining, I said. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad, she said softly, leaning closer. You don't get to decide that. That sentence sent a chill down my spine. I stood up. I think we're done here, I said. She grabbed my wrist. Please, she said, her voice suddenly trembling. I'm just trying to protect our family. I pulled my hand away. As I walked toward the door, she called after me. If you don't let me help you, she said, Others will decide for you. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. I got into my car and sat there for a long moment, staring at the steering wheel. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Is this Mr.?" a woman asked. "Yes," I said cautiously. "This is a social worker," she said. "I'm calling regarding a welfare concern that's been reported about you." My heart started pounding. "Reported by whom?" I asked. There was a pause. "Your daughter," she said. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She hadn't been preparing. She had already started. The social worker arrived 2 days later. She was polite, calm, professional, which somehow made everything worse. She sat across from me at my kitchen table, a thin folder in her hands, smiling the kind of smile people use when they've already made up their mind. "This won't take long," she said. "I just need to ask you a few questions." I nodded. She asked me what day it was. I answered. She asked me who the current president was. I answered. She asked me to describe my daily routine. I did. She nodded, scribbling notes. Then she opened the folder. "Your daughter expressed concerns," she said gently. She mentioned moments of disorientation, forgetting appointments, difficulté managing finances. I clenched my jaw. Did she mention that she asked for my ID? I asked. That she contacted care facilities without my knowledge? She paused. "No," she said. She did not. "Of course she didn't. She's worried about you," the social worker continued. "And given the circumstances, it's understandable." "What circumstances?" I asked. She hesitated. "Your wife's passing," she said. "And your isolation since then." Isolation. I almost laughed. "I see people," I said. "I work. I function." She nodded again. "I'm not here to take anything away from you," she said. "This is just an evaluation." An evaluation. After she left, I felt violated in a way I'd never experienced before. Someone had entered my life, my home, with the quiet authority to decide whether I was still me. I called my lawyer immediately. "This is escalating," he said after I explained everything. "Which means we need to move faster." "Move how?" I asked. "By documenting everything," he said, "and by finding out what changed." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her words. "You don't get to decide that." At around 2 a.m., I did something I'd avoided for years. I opened my wife's old email account. I still had access. I'd never closed it. Buried deep in the inbox were messages from years ago, newsletters, family updates, reminders. And then something else, a thread with my daughter, from shortly after my wife got sick. I started reading. At first, it was normal, loving, supportive. Then the tone shifted. My daughter complained about the house, about money, about how everything was in Dad's name. One message stopped me cold. "If something happens to you too, I'll have nothing." I kept scrolling. I need security. I can't be left with nothing again. Again? I felt a chill. I searched further back, and that's when I found it. An email my wife had never mentioned. From a lawyer, addressed to both of them. Subject line, Trust Amendment Draft. I opened it with shaking hands. The draft proposed reducing my daughter's access to the trust. Not removing her, but delaying full control. Reason, concerns about financial judgment. I sat back, stunned. My wife had seen something I hadn't. The next morning, I met my lawyer in person. He read the email silently. "This changes things," he said. "How?" I asked. "It establishes motive," he said. "And history." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, then at me. "You need to hear this," he said. He put the call on speaker. A man's voice came through. "This is Mark," the voice said. "I'm calling about your daughter." My heart raced. "I'm her ex-partner," the man continued. "And I think she's doing to you what she tried to do to me." The room went completely still. "What do you mean?" my lawyer asked. "She tried to have me declared unstable," Mark said, "so she could take control of shared assets." My breath caught. "It didn't work," he continued, "because I fought back." I closed my eyes. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. And for the first time, I understood the truth. My daughter wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to replace me. I agreed to meet Mark the very same day. We chose a quiet place outside the city, somewhere my daughter wouldn't think to look. He arrived early. I recognized him instantly, not from photos but from memory. He'd been around years ago, briefly. My daughter never spoke about him afterward. He looked tired, worn down in a way that suggested this wasn't a story he enjoyed telling. "I'm sorry," he said as we sat down. "I know this must be hard to hear. Just tell me everything," I replied. He nodded. "We were together for almost 3 years," he began. "At first, she was incredible. Attentive, protective, almost too perfect." That phrase stuck with me. "She handled all the finances," he continued. "Said she was better with paperwork. I trusted her." "Of course he did." "Then things started changing," he said. "She questioned my memory, correct me in front of people, suggest I was stressed, unstable. I felt a sixth sense of recognition. She pushed me to see doctors," he said. "Therapists. Told them I was paranoid." My hands clenched. "And then," I asked. "She asked about power of attorney," he said. "Framed it as temporary, just in case." I swallowed hard. When I refused, he continued. "She changed tactics." He leaned closer. "She filed a report saying I was emotionally volatile," he said, "that I might harm myself." My heart pounded. "What happened?" I asked. "Evaluations," he said. "Interviews." I almost lost my job. Almost. "What stopped it?" I asked. "I kept records," he said. "Emails, messages, and I had witnesses." I exhaled slowly. "Why didn't you warn me?" I asked. He looked down. "She made me sign an NDA as part of the separation," he said. "Threatened to destroy me financially." "Of course she did." "So why now?" my lawyer asked. Mark looked at me. "Because she contacted me last month," he said. "Asked for a statement." My blood ran cold. "A statement saying what?" I asked. "That you've always been controlling," he said. "That mental illness runs in your family." I laughed bitterly. "That you're losing your grip," he continued. "That she's been caring for you longer than you admit." I felt dizzy. "She's building a narrative," my lawyer said quietly. "Yes," Mark agreed. "And she's done it before." I drove home in silence. That night, I barely touched my dinner. I kept thinking about how carefully she'd constructed this image. The concerned daughter, the responsible one. How many people already believed her? The next morning, my phone rang. My doctor's office. They wanted to confirm an appointment I never made. When I arrived, the doctor looked confused. "Your daughter scheduled this," he said. "She said you were having memory lapses." I felt something inside me snap. I left without sitting down. Back in my car, my lawyer called. "She's filed a petition," he said. "Emergency guardianship." My hand started shaking. "What does that mean?" I asked. "If granted," he said, "she gains immediate authority over your medical and financial decisions." "How long until a decision?" I asked. "Days," he said. "Maybe less." I stared straight ahead. Days. I thought about my wife, about that draft amendment. She'd seen the signs, and she'd tried to protect me. Now's my turn, because if I didn't act fast, I wouldn't just lose my assets. I would lose myself. The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. 3 days. That was all it took for my life to be placed under review by people who had never met me. My lawyer worked fast, faster than I'd ever seen him work. We gathered medical records, employment history, letters from colleagues, friends, anyone who could testify that I was competent, present, and very much in control of my own life. Still, something bothered me. "She's too confident," I told him the night before the hearing. "She's acting like she already knows the outcome." He nodded. "People who do this," he said, "often believe they're untouchable." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No jury, no drama, just a judge, my daughter, her attorney, and me. She didn't look at me when she walked in. Not once. Her lawyer spoke first. He painted a picture of a loving daughter forced into responsibility by a father in decline. He cited examples. Missed calls, confusion, isolation. I recognized every moment he mentioned. They were real, just twisted. Then my lawyer stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't attack her. Instead, he asked the court for permission to submit additional evidence. The judge nodded. "What you're about to see," my lawyer said, "is not a sudden concern. It's a pattern." He handed over the email. My wife's email. The draft trust amendment. My daughter's attorney stiffened. "This document," my lawyer continued, "was written years before today's petition. It demonstrates prior concerns regarding financial judgment. The judge read silently, then looked up. Ms., she said to my daughter, were you aware of this draft? My daughter hesitated. No, she said. My mother never shared it with me. Interesting, the judge replied. Because we have reason to believe otherwise. My lawyer submitted another file. Email, metadata. Proof it had been opened. Read. By my daughter. Years ago. The room went quiet. My daughter finally looked at me. There was no fear in her eyes. Just anger. Then came the moment that broke everything. Her lawyer requested a brief recess. The judge agreed. During the break, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. If you don't drop this, you'll regret it. I showed it to my lawyer. He smiled. Good, he said. That helps. When court resumed, my lawyer stood again. We would like to submit one final piece of evidence, he said. He played an audio recording. My daughter's voice filled the room. Clear. Calm. Once they think you can't handle yourself, it's over. Everything transfers. Her attorney's face went pale. She jumped to her feet. That recording is illegal, she snapped. It was sent to my client, my lawyer replied. By your client. 30 minutes ago. The judge raised her hand. That will be enough, she said. She looked at my daughter. This petition is denied, she said firmly. And I am referring this case for further review. My daughter's composure cracked. You're making a mistake, she said. He needs me. The judge didn't respond. Outside the courtroom, my daughter finally spoke to me. You didn't have to do this, she said coldly. I looked at her. You did this, I replied. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. A slow, unsettling smile. This isn't over, she said. And for the first time, I believed her. The investigation didn't start with flashing lights or handcuffs. It started with silence. No calls from my daughter. No messages. Nothing. At first, I thought maybe she'd finally understood. That she'd step back. I was wrong. 2 days after the hearing, my bank froze one of my accounts. Not all of them. Just one. The one connected to my day-to-day expenses. I called immediately. It's a precaution, the representative said. We received a request for verification. From whom? I asked, already knowing the answer. From someone claiming to act in your best interest, she replied. That phrase again. Best interest. My lawyer shut it down within hours, but the message was clear. She wasn't done. Later that week, Mark called me. They contacted me too, he said. An investigator. About what? I asked. She's claiming you manipulated me into testifying, he said. That I'm unstable. I closed my eyes. She's trying to discredit everyone, I said. Yes, he replied. Because that's all she has left. The official inquiry began quietly. Emails were requested. Records subpoenaed. And then something unexpected happened. My daughter's husband reached out. He asked to meet. I didn't want to, but my lawyer insisted. He might be the key, he said. We met at his office. He looked nervous, older than I remembered. I didn't know, he said almost immediately. Not the full extent. Know what? I asked. He swallowed. That she'd done this before, he said. With Mark, or that your wife had concerns. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of messages. Her messages. Detailed plans. Timelines. Contingencies. Including one titled, If Dad Resists. I felt sick. She told me it was for your protection, her husband said. That you were deteriorating. And you believed her? I asked. He nodded. Until the court, he said. Until I heard the recording. He leaned forward. She's been moving money, he said. Small amounts. Testing limits. My lawyer exhaled. That's enough for criminal review, he said. The following weeks were a blur. Meetings. Statements. Paperwork. And then, one evening, she showed up at my door. Unannounced. She looked different. Tired. Hello. I just want to talk, she said. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She didn't sit. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. I just needed control. That's the same thing, I replied. She shook her head. You don't understand what it's like, she said. Living in fear of losing everything. I looked at her. You were never losing everything, I said. You were losing control. Her eyes hardened. If you testify, she said quietly, you'll destroy my life. I met her gaze. You already destroyed our relationship, I replied. She laughed bitterly. You think this makes you the good guy? She said. No, en surat. It makes me honest. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she left. The next morning, I signed the papers. Full cooperation. Because sometimes protecting yourself means accepting a truth you never wanted to see, even if it means letting go of the person you once trusted more than anyone else. The charges didn't come all at once. They never do. First, it was fraud, then coercion, then misrepresentation. Each word felt unreal when I heard it applied to my daughter. The investigation confirmed what we already knew, that she had systematically exaggerated, distorted, and in some cases fabricated concerns about my mental health. But what shocked me most was what they didn't charge her with. They never called it malice. They called it fear. Fear of instability. Fear of loss. Fear of ending up with nothing. Her lawyer argued that she truly believed she was doing the right thing, that she was protecting herself from future uncertainty. The court didn't fully accept that, but they didn't fully reject it either. She avoided prison, probation, mandatory counseling, financial restitution, a quiet ending for something that had nearly erased me. Months passed. My accounts were restored. My autonomy reaffirmed. The trust was restructured, with safeguards my wife would have approved of. I sold the house, not because I had to, because I wanted distance from the memories. On the day I moved out, I found something unexpected. A letter, tucked inside one of my wife's old books. It was addressed to me, not dated, but written in her handwriting. If you're reading this, it means I was right to worry. My hand shook as I read. Our daughter isn't cruel. She's scared. And when she's scared, she chooses control. Promise me you won't confuse love with obligation. I sat on the floor and cried for the first time in years. I didn't hear from my daughter for a long time. Then one day, a message appeared. No greeting, just a sentence. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I stared at it and realized something important. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. I replied, I hope one day you understand why I couldn't. That was the last message we ever exchanged. Today, I live quietly. I make my own decisions. I trust carefully, and I listen to my instincts. Because the terrible truth my lawyer warned me about wasn't just about my daughter. It was about how easily love can be weaponized when control starts wearing the mask of care, and how sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one who knows you well enough to pretend they're protecting you.